Okay, so in this video, there were two clips that have surfaced over the past 48 hours. One of them has to do with Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and Clark Kent in the office talking about the disaster that happened in Metropolis. And I'm going to be explaining what could be going on here because there is some theories that has been circulating, and I want to explain that here because it's very important. It's going to give us a better understanding on what this movie is truly going to be about. If you guys do not want to listen to this because I think that this could be very spoiler territory, be very careful. Maybe you might not want to see this or hear this, but that is just what we do in this YouTube channel. And we're also going to be talking about another clip that did reference Clark Kent wearing the glasses and why him wearing the glasses allows for him to really go undercover. And it will give us a better explanation on why the population in Metropolis does not see the same man between Superman and Clark Kent. It's going to be very fascinating, very interesting, but let's get straight into this, right? Let's talk about the first clip and what happened in the office. So clearly, we're talking about a moment where everybody's in the office and they're talking about how everybody in Metropolis have been in danger. Jimmy Olsen stated this: 22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damages. It does make you wonder, as great as he is, maybe Superman didn't think through the ramifications. So you can already hear that there are some people even in the office, even in the Daily Planet, questioning whether Superman is the right man to take care of whatever situations is going on in the city. So let's talk about the context and the big picture here. Superman sees one simple truth in his character, and this is a man that sees the truth and he acts on it. For example, there is this war going on in Boravia, and what we're going to be seeing through that scene is the soldiers will be there and they're really going to be understanding why are they even fighting? Like, what is even going on here? All of this is being pulled by Lex Luthor, but all in all, the soldiers are like, why are we even here? Why are we fighting? What's going on? The real victims in this whole situation are the civilians. They're terrified, powerless. In these moments, right, Superman is going to have to intervene because he has to, and he's most likely going to be hearing a child that's scared calling for Superman, kind of like what we have been seeing in the trailers and in the small clips. And to Superman, for him, this really does matter, to know that there's a kid out there calling for his name in the middle of this big danger. And I believe that Superman is going to help fix the situation in this big war that is going on, and the people are going to start to love him because he has saved the day, right? Very simple, a very simple superhero story. However, because Superman is winning the hearts and the love from the civilians, this is exactly what Lex Luthor does not want. Lex is a person and a character in this film that wants admiration. He wants to be seen as the hero, and his main goal here is to really make sure that Superman is seen as a bad guy. That is his goal, and that's all he wants. And he wants to test Superman's abilities through adding danger in the city. And let me tell you, the reason why this war in Boravia is happening is because Lex Luthor is giving Boravia more ammo, more weapons, and to go and take on Jarhamper, and to take what Jarhamper does have, which is these special minerals. I think, right, it is kryptonite. But yes, Lex Luthor is feeding Boravia. So Lex Luthor is telling Boravia, he's like, okay, look, if you help me, I'll give you these super high-tech toys that you do want. And what he wants, right, what Lex Luthor wants for Boravia to do is to go on and get kryptonite. And Boravia is like, okay, deal, let's do this. But like I've said, all of this gets fixed between the wars and the civilians with Superman. So Lex Luthor is like, okay, I do not like this. I thought something was going to happen here. Everybody's starting to like Superman because of the situation that I have created. This is not what I want. So what does Lex do next? What Lex wants to do is, okay, I have to create another situation. I have to create a situation where civilians can be in danger and to really test Superman again. So Lex releases the Hammer of Boravia. So he releases the Hammer of Boravia, who is a devastating weapon aimed at the civilians and to put Superman in a very tough situation. I don't know the small details here though. I don't know if Lex wants to make Superman look bad because of the wreckage that is caused between the Hammer of Boravia and Superman, or because he wants to confuse the audience and the civilians and say that Superman is the Hammer of Boravia. I don't know what's going on here. It's very unclear. In the end, it does reinforce Lex's narrative that Superman has endangered Boravia and triggered a fair retaliation. So Metropolis and even much of the world swallow this lie that Lex has created, and that is that Superman is the problem. So this goes back to what Jimmy Olsen stated: 22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damages. It does make you wonder, as great as he is, maybe Superman did not think through the ramifications. Now, if you pay close attention to what Lois Lane has said in the clip, Lois Lane is fighting back with this theory and this attitude that people are having against Superman. And I believe that Lois Lane is going to be playing a very important role here because he'll become Superman's anchor in this storm, because she does understand, as a great journalist she is, how stories shape public opinion and helps Clark translate his ideals into a language people do trust. And I believe that Superman fighting Kaiju, that is a whole other different scene, a whole other different day, which is going to be another thing that Lex is going to try and do and try to taint Superman's image. So Lex will eventually release Kaiju. And I believe that the main reason why Kaiju has been looking the way that he has, which is like a little, I would just say a little weird, foolish, like a dumb animal, for example, an animal that does not really have a brain. I think that there's a reason why he looks like this. It's because the creature is not really inherently evil. He's just colossal, confused, and just causing chaos just because. It's a Kaiju that cannot really think. And I believe that Superman is seeing this and he's saying, okay, I have to try and calm this creature because this creature does not know what it's doing. It's kind of like how Superman does view Crypto, for example. Crypto sometimes does a lot of accidental chaos and he has to be trained. So the same thing is being said with Kaiju. I believe that Superman is looking at Kaiju as Crypto, which does align with who Superman really is in the comics. He's not going to be somebody that's going to come through this whole situation be like, I'm going to kill Kaiju, I'm going to punch him and go through his body and that's it, done. No, that's going to ruin the whole purpose of who Superman is. But obviously it is going to be very difficult for Superman to handle Kaiju because the public is going to be like, oh my god, like look at how Kaiju is taking down all these buildings, people are getting hurt, and people are questioning, why isn't Superman taking down Kaiju? Because he's just letting Kaiju do what he needs to do in the city and causing all this damage. Once again, Lex Luthor is pulling the strings here, and it's highly likely that the Justice Gang come in, they take care of the Kaiju situation. I don't know if they end up killing him or putting him away, but in the end, the fight does end and the public does view Superman as an enemy, and they say, you did not stop Kaiju, you did not do anything, you just allowed Kaiju to do whatever he wanted to do in the city, and it harmed so many people, it put so many people in the hospitals, we do not like you. And this goes toe to toe with other scenes and clips that we have seen with some civilians throwing stuff at Superman, yelling at him, and he ends up just going into this building. So it is a very sticky situation here. All of this has been concluded. Yes, I know it sounds like I'm reaching here, but I feel like all of this has really been concluded by what Jimmy Olsen stated. With 22 people in the hospital, over 20 million in property damages, it does make you wonder how great he is. Maybe Superman didn't think through the ramifications. Jimmy Olsen is not the only one thinking like this. There's a lot of people that view this in the exact same way. I also find it very fascinating to know that Jimmy Olsen is like a ladies' man. Like there's so many women and girls that like Jimmy. They're like obsessed with him, very much like in the comics, which is always like fun to see. I also think that the rumors and the reports and leaks are true that maybe Eve, who is the girlfriend of Lex Luthor, might end up getting attached to Jimmy Olsen, meaning that they're going to be texting each other and it's basically Eve cheating on Lex Luthor. And I believe that that is going to be one of the ways that Lex Luthor ends up finding out where Superman is at, because he knows that Superman is very much attached to Jimmy Olsen, like they're close friends. He sees that Jimmy is present at every Superman appearance. He's like, okay, if you, Eve, right, who is my girl, are going to be texting Jimmy Olsen all the time, I'm going to be using your guys' conversations so I can know where Jimmy is at all the time, because that's going to allow me to see where Superman is at all the time. I do want to move on towards the next clip because it did show how, you know, Lois Lane and Clark Kent are talking to each other, but one key thing that Lois Lane stated was this: you keep getting all these interviews with Superman, eventually people are going to figure it out. And then Clark Kent stated, but the glasses. And I think that there's much more than meets the eye here, because James Gunn did state that Clark Kent's glasses in his Superman film are not just like ordinary eyewear. There's a reason why these clips are being made, is to give us clues on how this world is being built, right? It's true world building. But in this world that we're in, James Gunn has stated that Superman wears glasses that are not normal glasses. They're Hypno glasses. They hypnotize people and prevent them from recognizing Clark as Superman.
Hey, Clark.
Hey, Jimmy.
Did you, Who are you?
This idea, by the way, is canon from the comics, though largely forgotten in recent decades. So I can't believe it. Like, honestly, I did not even know this until I heard what James Gunn stated and after this clip, because I put two and two together. I'm like, oh my god, I get it. Clark Kent knows that what he's wearing, these glasses, they're Hypno glasses. So from the perspective of the other people in Metropolis, or anybody that talk to Clark Kent, they do not see Superman. They see somebody else. James Gunn continues, that's canon in the comics. It's kind of being forgotten, but that's from the comics. I was sitting with Tom King, the comic book writer, and I was like, you know, the thing that I just don't really know how to reconcile in myself is the glasses, because the glasses always bothered me as a kid. They bothered me because I just don't have that much suspension of disbelief to believe that. You know, they're two different people, even though I think out of all the actors that have played Superman, Cornsweet looks the most different as Clark Kent to Superman, even more so than Chris Reeve. But he said, you know, there's an answer for that in the comics. It's canon that they hypnotize people. So it's fascinating to hear that these small little details are very much present in the new Superman movie. And I cannot wait. And that is it. That is going to be wrapping up today's video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.